Welcome back to Continental Club, everybody at home. Chris Hamill is still abroad with his massive 6'10" mate, drinking a beer probably.
Although my friend, he's really tall.
He's really tall. Oh, yeah.
People always want to take pictures of him.
Although what I will say is he was meant to be at a festival yesterday, still tweeting me.
Yeah,
mate,
he was texting me last night.
Have some fun, mate. Just relax. Have some fun.
Take a day off,
Life goes on. Anyway, the first question today was sent in by Swagato Sakar 99. He says, which player is going to fail to live up to his hype this season? Dudes, you want to kick us off? Who are you going to go for?
Yeah, I will. Okay, so I briefly mentioned Malcolm on Sunday Vibes, so I won't go over that again. Make sure you tune in on Sunday to watch that. I think Mitrovic has the potential to be a bit of a Premier League flop. He's signed for £22 million from Newcastle, 23 years old, 5-year deal. He did fantastically well in the Championship last season. There's no denying it. 12 goals in 20 Championship games, averaging 4.1 shots a game, 1.1 key passes. Very, very useful. But his Premier League record really isn't the best. 10 goals and 4 assists in something like 45 Premier League games. It's got quite a bad disciplinary record as well. I just think he might be found out at this level. And I've never really been that impressed with him in the Premier League, but we'll wait and see. And then I'll also do a shout out to Justin Kluivert. 19 years old, and I think there's big pressure on him at Roma this year. Roma did well last year. They only conceded 28 goals, and they've only conceded fewer than that on 2 occasions in the last 15 years. But they've lost Alisson now, and he was that main contributor to that incredible record.
Yeah.
And they really struggled in the league to score goals. They only got 61, and Edin Dzeko got 16, and he was the only player to get over 7 in the league. So there was a massive need to recruit some goals. I think they really missed Mo Salah last season. They've also lost their top assist provider and most creative player in Nainggolan, who's averaging 1.9 key passes per game. And this means that there's massive pressure on Pastore and Justin Kluivert coming into the club.
Yeah.
And Justin Kluivert is only 19. He's got a lot of room to develop. I'm sure he will be a good player, but I just think that's a lot of pressure on his shoulders to sort of shoulder that creative burden. He's only got 12 goals and 9 assists in 44 Eredivisie games. So that's not an incredible record. But yeah, it's big pressure on his shoulders this year, and I don't know whether he'll quite live up to the hype, at least this year.
Yeah, man, I feel like Justin Kluivert, I feel like he should have had another year in Ajax. Maybe that's just me being an idiot.
Very young.
But I feel like he was 1 year away from a move. Obviously, he was linked to a number of Premier League clubs. None of them took the punt on him. And I don't want to say this because of it. I feel like he's got the move because he's called Kluivert.
Do you reckon?
More so than he has crushed it.
If I was Monchi, I don't know why they didn't go for Irving Lozano over Kluivert.
Well, price I think could be one factor, and also the profile, right? Lozano seems much more like a guy who's going to score you goals, whereas Kluivert's a bit more of a creator. I think a bit more rounded. But actually, no, I'm kind of okay with the Kluivert thing because originally they were talking about Barcelona and Man United being interested, and that was ridiculous to me. So Roma do seem like the right level to go to if you want.
At least they haven't overpaid. They haven't overpaid.
Oh no,
in fact
they've underpaid.
Yeah, they've underpaid. So that's the one thing you can say. If they'd have signed him for sort of 60 million, you'd be like, wow, that is a big punt. But at least at this price, it's not too much of a punt. But they did want other players in wide areas. They were desperate for Malcolm, weren't they?
Which would have been great.
That deal kind of fell through. Obviously, you've probably seen the interview with Monchi where he explains it by now.
Amazing interview.
Yeah, I think Kluivert, I think maybe a little bit harsh to say he won't live up to the hype because I don't see there being that much hype around it.
No, not as much as there was in the middle.
I just mean in terms of that, not necessarily the hype around him, but the pressure on him to provide goals. That team is short of goals.
Yeah.
And I think the other teams around Roma have improved so much. I think Roma are potentially going to drop out of the top 4 next year.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility.
I do as well.
But more because of the strength, around them than because of like mistakes necessarily.
Who are you going to go for then?
Oh God, I think there are a few candidates. I mean, like Fred could be terrible. Like he could be amazing. He genuinely could be. He could be terrible. Like we literally don't know. Like people are talking about him like, well, they say, oh, he was good in the Champions League, but the Champions League, all of his Champions League matches up until now pretty much constitute about a season's worth of data.
Yeah.
You know, like it takes a lot to kind of, it's such a small sample.
Yeah.
And other than that, he's playing in the Ukrainian league and they don't really have any real games. So it's really hard to tell how good he'll be. Players who've come out of Shakhtar in the past have been pretty decent. So I assume he'll be good, but we don't really know. And Man City kind of decided they weren't going to go for him in the end. So what does that mean? That's certainly a possibility. But for me, it's Gonzalo Higuain. Gonzalo Higuain. For years, I was always defending Gonzalo Higuain. I wanted Arsenal to sign him years ago. I always thought he was a fantastic player.
How many years ago, Eleven?
It was when he was leaving Real Madrid, so I think that was 2013.
Just before he went to Madrid.
Yeah,
maybe.
2013.
2013, the year we signed Ozil. And I think he would have been fantastic for us. And I think the whole narrative about him bottling big games is kind of bullshit. But after years of saying he's better than people think, I now think he's worse than people think. This summer people have been talking about paying between 50 and 100 million for him, and this was, Chelsea supposedly being interested, and then Milan, who have ended up paying that much if they get him on a permanent deal. I think they paid 16 million for a loan with an option to buy at a little over 30. That is a lot for a guy of his age. He's now 31. He's not always been in the most incredible physical shape, shall we say. And when you look at his goal-scoring record, it is getting worse. He got 36 3 years ago with Napoli. He got 24 the year after. It was 16 last year. That is troubling, especially given that he was actually a much better team last year than he was 3 years previously. I also think that his underlying numbers kind of are mimicking this trend. So he was taking 5 shots. Now it's down under 3. He was creating 1.5 chances a game, which is really good for a centre forward. Now it's down under 1. And so I look at Gonzalo Higuain and I think, don't get me wrong, when he plays, he'll get a few goals this season. But he is someone you need to manage now. He's actually a guy who's kind of a problem if he's your first choice centre forward. And given the money they've paid, it's pretty clear he is going to be their first choice centre forward.
Yeah.
If I were Milan, I would much rather either play Cutrone, who is going to get better over time and already got into double figures last season as an 18-year-old, which is incredible, or play Andre Silva, who is clearly very talented. His numbers are actually better than Higuain's were last season in terms of shots and key passes and expected goals. So I don't know.
He's not a bad player to have in your roster while you see Cutrone continue to develop, while Andre Silva continues to develop himself.
But this is the question. Andre Silva though is at the age where he needs to be playing. He's 23, I think now, and that's
he should have left this window.
That's not. Yeah, I think so as well. I think he could have gone to Dortmund, and that would have been great. But there's still time. I think he would have been a better option for them because he's the guy you want to develop at this point. And yeah, when you say he's a good player to have in the squad, he's a good player to have in the squad if you have him in the squad. But they didn't. They had to go out and spend quite a lot of money to get him in the squad.
16 million on a loan.
And big wages.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about that, that's an issue. If Juve rather had kept him as their second choice striker, would have had no problem with it at all. But
I think they should have kept him. I think my player that's going to fail to live up to the hype. I'll start with a player because I've also got a shout for a manager. I think that will fail. But my player, I think, is Leo Bonucci. I think it's a horrible move by Juventus, bringing Leo Bonucci back, mainly because it also meant the sacrifice of Matteo Caldara.
yes.
That is the main reason I think it's a
bizarre,
very bizarre move.
Yeah, because Caldara has always meant to be the future of that back line.
Exactly, especially when you look at obviously it's kind of a direct swap with Higuain. It's a bit of an odd one. Obviously they've paid 33 million for Bonucci, but Higuain will join next summer on a permanent, pay the rest of the money then.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an odd move, but for me, Bonucci massively regressed since he joined Milan. I think Juventus got him out of the club at the right time, to be totally honest, when they've lived first time around. I think they've got 2 ageing centre-backs already at the club in Barzagli and Chiellini. I think they've got... And Benatia as well, also aging now. I think they've got exciting young talent, or had in Caldara. They've also got Rugani there, haven't they?
And the defence was good last year as well.
100%. I'm so shocked they've let Leo Bonucci back through the door. And I'm sure, and from what I've read, AC Milan fans were pretty bloody happy to see Bonucci leave and be replaced by a player like Caldara. Now they've got a very exciting young backline, Milan, in Romagnoli and Caldara. I think they've arguably got the better end of that deal. But my manager, I mentioned him slightly then, I'm a little bit worried about Thomas Tuchel.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. I love Thomas Tuchel. I think he did a fantastic job at Borussia Dortmund. And I think the elements at Borussia Dortmund that made him work are not there at PSG. I think he got the best, in a similar way to Klopp from Borussia Dortmund, he got the best out of that group of players that weren't quite superstars. They were burgeoning superstars, and he could mould them into what he wanted them to be and play in a way he wants them to play. I don't think he can do that with the PSG squad. I think Neymar's going to say, I'm going to play how I want to play. I think Mbappe, maybe Mbappe more so because he's so young, but I think some of the players back there are dickheads as well. I think you look at like Marco Verratti. I think Marco Verratti's going to be kicking up a fuss. He's got trouble with Rabiot already, hasn't he? Tried to move him on.
Yeah,
he bemoaned it when he first came in, of course, his fullback options. Didn't get any fullbacks through the door, so he's going to be stuck with the players he hammered earlier in the season. His centre-backs, obviously, he tried to bring in Jerome Boateng, got priced out of a move there, so that kind of suggests to me that he's not overly happy with the centre-backs he's got. Obviously, he still has time to bring players in this window because it doesn't close for another 2 weeks. But if he doesn't get any fullbacks in, he must want a centre-half because he tried to get Boateng, which means he doesn't trust Thiago Silva potentially to be there and play every game like he has in the past. I'm a little bit worried about Tuchel. I think he's a fabulous manager, but I don't know whether he's made the right move going to PSG.
Yeah, it might not be the right fit for him. I kind of agree with that. But I actually think that if Neymar had left, it might not be the worst thing in the world for Tuchel.
Same.
Because I do think Mbappe will knuckle down. I think Cavani's a hard worker.
Yeah.
But Verratti and Neymar are the guys, Rabiot aside, who's obviously a dick. Those are the two who you'd worry about kicking up a fuss.
There's a lot of in that squad.
It's almost an impossible job, the PSG job, in many ways as well, because domestically you're going to pretty much wipe the floor guarantee.
Yeah.
And it's all based around the Champions League, and they haven't got past the quarter-final in their entire history.
Well, they keep getting hard draws, in fairness. I mean, like, they should have gone past Barcelona.
I don't think they were particularly impressive against Real Madrid last
No, they were terrible against Real Madrid, but I thought the season before they were clearly the better side over 2 legs against Barcelona, and it was just like a freak game. Yeah, exactly. But definitely, Tuchel, I think he's better in the one-on-one matchup as a manager than Emery is. So I think that will help them a little bit. But yeah, it is a bit troubling, especially because we saw this issue with Neymar at the World Cup, right? Yes. If he doesn't have a firm hand, then when he demands the ball every time, his team give it to him, and it makes them really predictable.
Really predictable.
Whereas at Barcelona, fortunately, he couldn't do that because Messi was like, literally everything you're good at, I'm better at.
Yeah. But what I will say is that it could go completely the other way. Like Thomas Tuchel, he's such a talented coach that we might be writing him off too early, and he might just have all the cogs in place and have a great man management and great rapport with Neymar and a great rapport with Marco Verratti. But just from some of the indicators I've seen so far this season, I'm a bit worried about Thomas Tuchel's time. But who do you guys at home think is going to fail to live up to the hype this coming season? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The next question comes from Oliver Skovbo. He says, is the reason Barca are spending so much because La Masia isn't creating world-class players anymore? Now, last season, April 2018, they drew 2-2 with Celta Vigo. That was the first time they haven't had a single La Masia graduate play in 16 years in that game. What are our thoughts on La Masia? Firstly, Pato, what are your thoughts on their current business and structure?
Well, that to me suggests, like, what's remarkable there is not that they didn't have a La Masia graduate in that game, it's that they've had such a great run of having La Masia graduates play in their matches. Like, they've still got plenty in the squad, you know, they've got Rafinha, they've got Busquets, they've got, you know, Piqué, Messi, all these guys. But I think they just had an unbelievable generation of graduates come out of it. And inevitably, whenever any club goes out and buys a player, it's usually because they don't have that player coming through their academy. That's perfectly fair enough. Barcelona are not the kind of side who can sit around and wait for a bunch of these kids to grow up. Like Sergi Samper didn't develop the way they hoped he would. It seems like they don't really fancy Rafinha, despite how good he is. And they've got a kid called Carles Aleña, who looks like he's always been a bit of a prospect. They've talked about him a lot, but I think he's injured at the moment. Yeah. I don't know how many minutes he's going to get. So I think Barcelona made a rod for their own backs when they produced such a golden generation of academy graduates, because no other club gets this bullshit the way they do. Yeah. Like, no one's talking about this with Real Madrid. Like, no one's pointing out that with Real Madrid, you know, like, yes, they sold Carvajal and then bought him back, but their young players like Asensio is not an academy graduate, and neither is Isco. Yeah,
nobody's talking about it with Manchester United. Obviously, they had the class of '92, now really struggling to produce leading.
Man United Man United are kind of the Barcelona of the UK in that they get this more than other clubs, right?
Yeah, they get it. They definitely get this. They haven't produced it in a long time.
Yeah, but on the other, they've still got Rashford, you know, and like,
Marcus Rashford.
last Yeah, and Lingard, and last season McTominay got
Pogba.
minutes. It looks like Andres Pereira will get minutes. Yeah, Pogba, you could even argue. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, but Pogba left, and I would argue when I say Manchester United, obviously I forgot about Rashford. Then embarrassing, but like Jesse Lingard for me is a bit of a Rafinha mould. The right manager might coax something good out of him, but he's never going to be the level of a Messi or a Piqué or a Busquets. In the same way, Lingard's never going to be the level of a Giggs or a Scholes or a Beckham.
Sure, but that's like, it's a bit rough to compare them to the icons of their club. Like, I think with Barcelona, what you want to do with every generation, right, is bring through the academy graduates you can and then supplement it with signings from outside. At the moment, Barcelona just are having a little bit of a down year. The question, though, that has been posed here kind of implies that this is a trend rather than just something happening at the moment. It says, is La Masia not producing great players anymore? And that kind of implies that they think something's going wrong at La Masia, and I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Well, I was reading some, because I was doing the prep for this, and I was reading some of the articles yesterday, and they were saying that there potentially is an issue with La Masia, and it's stuck in its ways, and it hasn't changed its methods since the likes of Xavi, Iniesta, Messi were all coming through. Sure. And it seems like the recent managers, Luis Enrique and Valverde, seem to be moving slightly away from the Barcelona way, that identity that they are obsessed with, and recruiting, very much more happy to go, slightly more direct at times. Luis Enrique was very happy to get it to the front three of a Neymar, Messi, and Suarez, very much missing out in the midfield at times, a bit more than previous managers. And I think they're just having a few issues because I think it was in 2012 they fielded an entire XI of homegrown talent. And in 2010, they had 3 nominees for the Ballon d'Or. It just does seem like there's a bit of a shift. And they're not even really, except for Sergio Roberto, there's no one really getting regular minutes in there. And they have made some bad, signings. It's all right to bring in top talent if there's not the players coming through the academy, as Pat said. But Paulinho, Paco Alcacer, they had to buy back Deulofeu, Denis Suarez. They spent over 100 million on players like Andre Gomez, all this collective, at the expense of their youth academy. And I just think they're going to have to replace the Piqués, Rakitics, Busquets, Messi, Suarez in the next 3 to 4 years. And it's worrying if there's not anyone from your academy getting minutes. It's not, literally, there's barely anyone getting any time. So I think it is slightly concerning, and I wouldn't just say it's seemingly like a momentary trend. It does seem like a complete change in the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah,
I kind of agree. I think that the one problem they've got is they're always going to stack every player that comes through that academy up against previous talent, and they have had that golden generation come through. What I will say is we've both been to La Masia, and it is quite old-fashioned. I felt like when I was there, it's quite old-fashioned, and it's
interesting.
It's got a really weird vibe about it. It's basically like a juvenile detention centre is how I could best describe it.
There's like a breakout room.
So you come in, they're made to put all of their phones in a box. They're not allowed any technological devices. They are allowed 1 hour of PlayStation a day in the community room, as they call it. There's a head tennis table, a bit like a table tennis table kind of thing. And then they just play all day. Then they go to school, they get put on a coach, and they all go as one group, have a special class, all come home as one group.
Like a prison.
It's a little bit juvie, I'll be honest. It feels a little bit like that, and I don't know, maybe people are right. I don't have enough insight into La Masia to say whether or not it has stopped producing people because it's stuck in its ways, but certainly from me visiting it, I don't know what sense you got, Pato, it felt old-fashioned.
Well, it feels a little bit like they were really proud. They showed us a map. Do you remember where they showed where players in the academy had come from?
Yeah.
They're players from South Korea and stuff. And they're really proud of this. But on the other hand, my issue is actually kind of the opposite of yours, where you're they're moving away from the Barcelona way. I just think the problem is that they're not open enough to moving away from that.
Okay.
I'd say that they're happy to bring in players from around the world, but they don't necessarily bring in ideas. So they have this idea that we have always produced great players, we've always produced great coaches, and they want to do things the same way. But the Barcelona way is a pretty new idea. It's kind of something that we've talked about in the last 10 years, pretty much since Guardiola got the job. Because before that, You know, Rijkaard played much more direct football. They were not just like a pure possession side then. Before that, they had Van Gaal, you know, who was playing like pretty direct style as well. Like Rivaldo would not fit into a Pep
Maybe it was
Guardiola
just the pride
side.
that they had in that style of play under Guardiola, and you know, made the link with Cruyff, you know, being his ex.
Yeah, I think it's just the Cruyff and Guardiola. They have these like
The icons.
they have these two towers of like what Barcelona football should be, and everybody in between is seen as kind of like pretenders or seen as fake. But actually, I think that sometimes they need to say, you know what, things are being done differently now, and maybe get ideas from elsewhere. So before, they had Spanish technique married with kind of Dutch thinking about the game, and that at the time was cutting edge. But now what they might need to do is go to Germany or Argentina or Austria. These are the countries that are actually producing the top tier coaching talent at the moment, and figure out how they're training their players. Because frankly, I think most of the clubs in those places are doing probably a better job, because they're less wedded to tradition. They've got less weight on them, you know, of what Barcelona should be, what Barcelona players should be, what Barcelona's style should be like. So I don't know. I think they're a little bit insular. I do think that's an issue. But when it comes to this generation, there aren't any good players coming through the academy. I think that's true of most generations. Like most academy players
Everybody
don't
goes
make
through
it
it,
at
yeah,
their
it's
club.
more
You know?
Like 99% of academy players don't become elite
Yeah.
superstar footballers.
It's
So
I think it's just because that spine of that team, well, just throughout that team, there's a lot of aging players. There's a lot of players approaching 30 or over 30. So in the next couple of years, I just think it's a bit worrying for them.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. But that's about them having a joined up strategy, and not just about saying, oh well, the academy hasn't produced a new Busquets. Like, it's hard to produce a new Busquets. Every club in the world is trying to do it.
Maybe they just did have an incredible run of it. I
The
suppose.
worry is, I guess, when they look at, say, Man City's academy, and they think we are way behind that. That is a problem for them. You know, whereas previously they were the best in the world, they've now got to look around at at teams that are richer than them and are actually more innovative than they are. You know, like Man City went and took the best talent from Barcelona.
And their directors as well.
Yeah, but
Literally.
but said we've got more money and we're more forward thinking than you are. And those are the people Barcelona need to be competing with.
yeah, so there we have it. But what are your thoughts on La Masia, and is it going backwards? Let us know again, twice in the show, in the comments below. Quickfire questions time to wrap us up then. This one comes from Kieran_Hughes19. Who is your favourite player of all time from your club? Doogie, keep Sunderland short because no one cares.
Kevin Phillips.
Kevin Phillips, we do have a photo of him. He's not on the new
Yeah,
wall.
he hasn't made the wall.
I know. Talking of the wall, this is the new Continental Club set. Let us
Yes,
know what you
welcome.
think. Pato, move out of the way so they can show them the poster. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. This is the Continental Club poster. Big up Adam Reeves. We do have a photo of Kevin Phillips,
Yeah.
but sadly not made the cut
Shout
today.
out to Seb Larson of more recent times.
Oh, he's an awful
I
bloke.
love Seb Larson.
Oh
One of the
my,
best looking men
I
in
hate
football.
Seb Larson.
He's rubbish.
Such a
poor man's
moaner.
No,
Morten
no,
Gans
he's a great
Pedersen.
man. He's
He
a great
actually
man.
is.
He's a
That's a
worker.
great description.
No.
Poor man's Morten Gans
No,
Pedersen.
no.
Exactly the same. Oh, he takes a great free kick. Shut up.
No,
Rubbish.
good
Good
work,
ball
great.
specialist.
Good hero.
Yeah.
Had many offers.
Dead.
Stayed loyal.
Dead. Pato, you?
Bergkamp. Yeah, Bergkamp.
Fair.
My favourite player of all time, I think.
Yeah.
Just great to watch. Dirty. Just really good, and like, you know, what a great era for the club that was. He kind of kicked it off, I'd say, his arrival.
Yeah, so for me, obviously Paul Scholes, just that ginger vibe. Don't know, must have had a good connection with him when I was a kid. Used to have every one of his shirts. What a baller.
He was sick to watch.
Best central midfielder the Premier League's
So we've
ever
got
seen.
Scholes, Bergkamp and Seb Larson, all three on a par.
Yeah, absolute madness.
Exactly the same level.
Seb Larson, fantastic. Fat0039 says,
Did you say FAP?
That F-A-T-H, Fath?
Fath.
0039
All
says,
right, it's an important
who's the
distinction.
best ever goalkeeper in Premier League history?
I wasn't really old enough to see him, but everyone talks about Schmeichel. But the best goalkeeper that I've seen, probably, I really like Van der Sar. I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, he was really
Yeah,
good.
man.
I thought
He was
Van der Sar
old as
really
well,
good.
and he was still great.
Yeah.
Ledge.
Weird career as well.
Yeah.
He was just sort of rotting at Fulham and then ended up at Juventus, won a few Champions Leagues, good player.
Yeah.
I think the best keeper in Premier League history, in terms of the career they've had in it, is Czech. But I think
He's slightly ruining his legacy now.
I don't know. He's
Nah,
old,
he's
but,
fine, he's old.
But I think 2-3 years time it will be De Gea.
Yeah, I completely agree.
The
I
highest
think-
standard of goalkeeping I've seen in the Premier League has been De Gea.
Yeah, I think the most talented goalkeeper the Premier League's ever seen is David De Gea.
Yeah,
I
he
think
might be the Messi of goalkeepers.
probably in terms of legacy. Probably Casper. Peter Schmeichel, yeah. I think Peter Schmeichel probably won't be top just for what he did at Manchester United.
Tim Flowers.
Although he did fall off quite badly.
Nigel Martin.
Also, yeah, Van der Sar gets a good shout out.
Seaman.
Can't think of any others. Yeah,
David
Big
Seaman.
David.
Jens
David
Lehmann was
Seaman.
really good for a season as well.
Jens Lehmann was
yeah.
a madman, which was really fun. I don't know, who else is
David
there?
De Gea, man, is going to be
else is in the
the
reckoning?
best goalkeeper. How old's De Gea now? I think he's probably
27.
Yeah, he's probably still got like
28 maybe?
7 years at the top.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it will comfortably be him.
Yeah, he'll be amazing by the time he's like 32.
Friedel actually had a great career in the Premier League.
Yeah.
There were loads of guys like that who were really reliable.
David James.
Pepe Reina was really good for a long time, but realistically, I think it's got to be checked based on what he achieved.
Next season in the Premier League is going to be fascinating in terms of goalkeepers. There's really good talent there.
Really good
Ederson,
quality.
Alisson, De Gea,
Kepa.
Kepa.
Right, let's go to the last one then. Matthew Washmore says, which Premier League team did the best deadline day business?
Spurs, obviously.
Bit of banter there for you Spurs
Brexit.
fans. Well done, mate.
Fulham.
Brexit.
Fulham
Got
Yeah.
in Andre Frank Anguissa from Marseille. I actually, a few weeks ago, I was looking at numbers, because that's something that I do, and I looked at his numbers at Marseille and I was like, this guy's doing a lot of defensive work, and seems like a decent passer, like just a really good guy to shield your back four. And I asked about it on Twitter, and one guy sent me like 10 tweets in response about this guy's playing style. It was genuinely amazing. And Fulham wrapped up a deal for him yesterday for I think about 22 million quid. And when you come up to the
Fulham's
Premier League,
business, amazing.
I think when you come to the Premier League, the things you want a really solid defensive midfielder to shield the back four. You want as good a striker as you can afford, and you want someone who can create a little bit.
Yeah.
And Fulham have those things.
And
Fulham have all
more.
those things.
They've probably got one of the most talented teenagers in the Premier League in Ryan
Yep.
Sessegnon. I expect him to have a great season. Tom Kearney,
Yeah.
consistent performer at 10. They've got Jean-Michel Seri, who's going to come in and support him.
I actually think Schürrle
Slightly
will be a
more
good
advanced.
rotation.
They've got
Schürrle will
my
be
tit to
fine.
flop, Mitrovic.
The one area potentially is a problem, I think, is Mitrovic. I
Really?
maybe wonder whether they should look for another goal scorer. Although I'm hoping out of Schürrle, Seri, Kearney, Sessegnon, they have enough goals to kind of share a bit of responsibility around the side.
Yeah, I think they'll be all right.
For me, did the Chelsea boys sign officially on deadline day? Can I have Kovacic and Kepa, or is that the day before?
I think
You can take that.
I mean, that's
Is that
pretty
general
damn
period?
good.
Pretty ridiculous business to get Kovacic through the door. Can't wait to
Dendoncker
see
as
him.
well.
Yeah,
You liked Dendoncker,
Dendoncker
didn't
at
you?
Wolves. Love that transfer. The midfield three of Moutinho, Neves and Dendoncker. Not the most progressive, but my God, it's talented.
It's outrageous.
It's absolutely
For Wolves.
outrageous they managed to get that deal over the line, Dendoncker. He has been linked with everyone, obviously. Got great experience in Belgium. Anderlecht captain last season. He's going to come in, he's going to bring leadership. I don't know whether he's going to start. Does he start? Obviously, Nuno Espirito Santo last year really liked a 3-4-3 and used Barry Douglas on the left, but he's now been sold to Leeds, as I mugged myself off in fantasy football.
Did they get Kazawa in? They were trying to.
They didn't get Kazawa over the line.
Actually,
They didn't get him
didn't
over
see
the
that
line.
link.
They tried to get Zinchenko over the line to, I think, offer some cover at that left-back role, but they
that'd be
did
interesting.
get George, what was his name? Johnny, is it? Johnny. They did get Johnny over the
Johnny.
line. So they managed to get his services wrapped up. But a midfield three, fighting for two places of João Moutinho, Ruben Neves and Leander Dendoncker is madness in the Premier League.
outrageous.
Also,
How
shout
dare
out
they?
Everton.
Yeah, I was going to say Everton. I think, I just don't know what Yerry Mina is going to be like, to be honest. I haven't seen enough of him.
It's
to be
fine
honest.
for 30
I think it's risky on the back of a World Cup, and he didn't play that much last season. And then Andre Gomez, I think, he's not a world beater, but he's he's definitely an improvement on McCarthy or Besic or Tom Davies.
He's not. I don't know if he's an improvement.
And then
on Davies or
Bernard,
Schneider.
I think, will be a useful forward. So they did.
What about Leicester as well? We've got in Benkovic and Soyuncu. Like for a long time,
And Kep
Soyuncu,
Maguire.
yeah.
for a long time we were saying with Leicester, like the real issue is that like
And
their
signed
centre
Vardy
backs
to a
are
4-year
so.
contract.
I think that was bad business actually.
It's a long contract.
Like it's a
isn't it,
long
for
contract, and
32-year-old.
and he's kind of like Higuain, where like he's still decent, but he's visibly slowing
I'm
down.
not sure what he's
Like,
going to be like when his pace goes as well.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a worry. But for a long time we were saying Morgan, Huth, too old, you know, and now when you look at their back line, they've got Chilwell, they've got Ricardo Pereira, Soyuncu, Benkovic, and Maguire, plus Johnny Evans to add a bit of experience. That is f***ing outrageous.
Superb.
And Ndidi in front of them.
I don't know a lot about Benkovic, but Soyuncu was supposedly one of the emerging top centre.
Yeah, I really like their summer business. I think if they'd have kept hold of Mahrez, we'd have been talking them as being comfortably the best side outside of the top six.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
But sadly, obviously, missed out or lost him, and now the pressure on Gazal and Maddison is pretty high. But who do you guys at home think had the best business? I'll go Wolves. Dukes has taken Everton,
Yeah.
and you said Fulham. Vote in the poll up there right now
All time.
to decide. So that's it from Continental Club this week. But gentlemen, what is coming up on Football Daily today and tomorrow, Pato?
We've got the Football Social out tomorrow, a live stream as we cover the 3 o'clock kickoffs on the first weekend of the Premier League season. You'll get to see the Chelsea new boys in action under Maurizio Sarri. I think versus Huddersfield, maybe.
Yes, it
which
is
I'm
versus
actually
Huddersfield.
quite excited about because that could be a shellacking. But yeah, it should just be a good one for us to have a look over the transfer as well, take some of your questions, and really look forward to the rest of the season.
Dukes?
Yeah, go over and check out VFN as usual, with the usual hilarity as it always is. And go check out 12th Man as well, that's coming out today. And I believe it's you two and
McCullough,
Adam McCullough.
Big up McCullough, yeah.
Man United fame, and I was watching it through yesterday before I went out, and it's a very good episode, so go check that out too.
Yes, indeed. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Catch you later. Bye.